Do you ever notice that everyone's talking about freedom of thought, but nobody actually thinks freely? That's because you've been brainwashed, and not just once. Oh no, my friend. Society gives you a 3-course meal of brainwashing, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for your mind. First category, the early programming. It starts the minute you pop out of the womb. The moment you take your first breath, they slap a label on you. Your name, your religion, your nationality, your gender. Congratulations, you're now an official product of the system. They start filling your little head with slogans, flags, and fairy tales. Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, and the Almighty Creator, all in one bundle. You don't even stand a chance. By the time you're 10, your brain's already preloaded with all the cultural software they want you to run for life. You don't question it, you recite it. The national anthem, the pledge, the prayers. It's not education, it's installation. They're formatting your hard drive to fit their files. Second category, the adult maintenance. Just when you think you're free, they hand you bills, jobs, and debt. You spend your whole adult life trying to pay for the things you were told you needed. Cars, houses, designer clothes, and phones smart enough to make you stupid. They keep you entertained, distracted, and medicated. The television tells you what to want, the politicians tell you who to hate, and the corporations tell you what you're missing. And you nod along like a good little consumer. They don't need to lock you up anymore. They just give you Netflix, credit cards, and social media filters. You're the perfect prisoner, self-contained and smiling. Third category, the self-inflicted brainwash. Now this one's the masterpiece. The one they don't even have to do themselves. They've trained you so well that you do it for them. You censor yourself. You doubt yourself. You think being a good person means fitting in and staying quiet. You see something wrong, and you scroll past it. You feel something true, and you call it too negative. You've internalized the propaganda so deeply, you've become your own thought police. You repeat the slogans even when no one's around. Everything happens for a reason. That's just how the world works. It could be worse. Well, sure, it could be worse. You could still believe it all's your idea. The biggest trick ever played wasn't hiding the truth. It was convincing you to stop looking for it. So, congratulations. You're free to think exactly what they programmed you to think. But if you ever start feeling uncomfortable, that strange itch in the back of your brain that says something's off, that's not a glitch. That's your mind waking up. Scratch it hard. Keep scratching. That's how you deprogram yourself. One uncomfortable truth at a time. And remember, the problem isn't that people are brainwashed, it's that they like it. You ever notice how people talk about being their own person? Yeah, everybody's walking around with this little badge of individuality. I'm unique, I'm special, I think for myself. No, you don't. You were assembled, put together like a toy set, piece by piece, long before you even knew what a thought was. From the minute you slide out screaming into the world, there's a crowd waiting with a list of things you're supposed to be. They give you a name, a religion, a country, a flag, and a set of rules. And you don't even get to sign the contract. The fine print was written before you could hold a crayon. Congratulations, you're officially under warranty, property of civilization. They start the installation process right away. Mom and dad mean well, but they've already been through the same mental car wash. They pass down the software like it's a family recipe, same ingredients, same blind faith, same flavor of fear. We go to this church, we believe this book, we vote for these people, we cheer for that flag. Nobody asks the baby for an opinion. Nobody says, hey kid, before we teach you about God and taxes, how about we explain critical thinking? No, they just load you up. Nursery rhymes, bedtime prayers, fairy tales, a complete starter pack of illusions. And then school comes along, that fine institution of intellectual obedience. You think you're learning, but you're just memorizing. Stand in line, raise your hand, repeat after the teacher. It's like a training camp for future consumers. They don't want explorers or philosophers, they want employees. So they teach you dates, not meaning. They teach you facts, not understanding. They want you to know who discovered America, but not who stole it. They want you to recite the pledge, not question why you're pledging at all. Every bell that rings tells you when to eat, when to sit, when to move. You think it's an education, but it's just a rehearsal for adulthood. The same performance with bigger bills and smaller dreams. And let's not forget religion, the first big brand in human history. They start early with that one. Before you can even spell your name, you're told that an invisible man loves you so much he'll punish you forever if you disobey. What a deal! They teach you to fear what you can't see, trust what you can't prove, and feel guilty about everything in between. They hook you young because once that fear gets in there, it sticks like gum on your shoe. Even when you grow up and stop going to church, the fear tags along, whispering in your head, making you apologize for being human. It's not spirituality, it's psychological house training. Then come the holidays. Oh, they're good at that. Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, all these magical little lies that get you used to believing things because everyone else does. And when you finally figure out it's all make-believe, nobody apologizes. They just replace the fairy tales with bigger ones. Freedom, democracy, the American dream, same packaging, fancier font. You move from believing in a fat man in a red suit to believing in politicians who tell you they care. It's the same performance, only the costumes change. By the time you hit your teenage years, the mold is set. You've been trained to fit in, not to question. You've got a flag to wave, a team to support, a celebrity to worship. You've been told who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, and which side you're supposed to be on. And if you dare to ask why, they look at you like you farted during a prayer. You're not supposed to ask why. You're supposed to nod, smile, and repeat the slogans. That's how things are. That's just life. Don't rock the boat. Meanwhile, the boat's sinking and everyone's busy polishing the deck chairs. They call it tradition, as if that word magically makes stupidity sacred. We've always done it this way. Yeah? You've also always died. Doesn't mean it's a good habit. But tradition gives people comfort, and comfort keeps people quiet. They hand you history books written by the winners, tell you what to believe about your country, and pat you on the head when you memorize it correctly. Nobody tells you that half of what you're learning is public relations for the dead, and just when your brain starts showing signs of independent thought, they send you to college. Higher education, where the tuition is high and the thinking is low. They tell you you're learning to find yourself, but really you're just finding debt. You pick a major that fits the economy, not your curiosity. You come out with a diploma and a conditioned mind ready to serve. They don't want philosophers, they want professionals. People who'll show up on time, keep their opinions to themselves, and never, ever ask who's writing the rules. That's the genius of early brainwashing. It's invisible. You don't even realize it's happening. You think you're forming your own opinions, but you're just rearranging the furniture they already gave you. You pick your favorite brand of toothpaste, your favorite team, your favorite flavor of conformity. You think choosing between Coke and Pepsi means freedom. No, it just means you've accepted the menu. The restaurant of life serves the same dishes, just different sauces. And if you ever start doubting, there's always someone nearby to push you back in line. Family, friends, teachers, preachers, all certified representatives of the mental maintenance department. They'll tell you you're being negative or disrespectful. They'll remind you to be grateful for what you have, as if gratitude and ignorance are the same thing. But the truth is, they're scared. They don't want you to wake up, because if you do, you might wake them up too, and nobody likes being shaken out of a comfortable dream. So you grow up believing you made choices, when really most of them were made for you. The music you like, the clothes you wear, even the way you define success, all pre-selected by committees you've never met. The first 10 years of your life decide the next 60, and you never had a vote. By the time you start asking real questions, the answers have already been installed. Work hard, obey the law, respect authority, great advice for sheep. And the most brilliant part, you'll defend the system that programmed you. You'll argue online, scream at strangers, and go to war over ideas you didn't invent. That's how deep it goes. You don't just believe the story, you become part of its security team. You're like a guard protecting the walls of your own prison. And every time someone rattles the bars, you call them crazy. That's early programming, the quiet, systematic shaping of a human being into a manageable citizen. It doesn't come with a manual, but it sure comes with a warranty, mind-controlled, soul-contained, guaranteed to comply until expiration. You ever think you're finally free when you grow up? You hit 18, throw that graduation cap in the air and say, I'm done with school. I'm my own person now. Yeah, sure. The ceremony is just the handoff. They take you out of one system of control and plug you right into another. You move from the classroom to the cubicle, from textbooks to tax forms, from detention to debt. It's a smooth transition. The brainwashing just changes uniforms. They don't call it obedience anymore. They call it responsibility. They make you feel proud of your own chains because now you're paying for them yourself. You're told to get a job, make money, and be productive. But nobody ever tells you productive for whom. The system runs on human fuel, and you're the gas. They've been grooming you for this since day one. All that punctuality and politeness training wasn't for your benefit. It was practice for showing up on time and taking orders without throwing a fit. They dangle the idea of making a living like it's a noble cause, but really it's just a lifetime subscription to the rat race. You wake up early, drink your coffee, sit in traffic, work all day doing something that means nothing to you, and then come home too tired to question why. They don't have to build prisons anymore. They've got offices. The walls are made of routine. And the whole time they've got this word they love, success. What a beautiful, empty little word. Success. It sounds so good you don't even ask what it means. You just assume it's about money, status, stuff. But success in this system just means you've learned how to decorate your cage. They convince you to spend your best years chasing shiny distractions, cars, houses, new phones, vacations you can't afford, promotions you don't need, approval from people you don't like. You buy things to impress others who are just as broke, just as lost, just as brainwashed. It's a merry-go-round of madness, powered by credit and insecurity. And when it breaks down, they call it the economy. Advertising is the new religion, and the screen is the altar. Every day you're baptized in the glow of products, brands, influencers, and slogans. They whisper to you all day long, you're not enough, but this will fix you. Your teeth aren't white enough, your skin isn't smooth enough, your body isn't thin enough, your house isn't big enough. But don't worry, for just 3 easy payments, salvation is yours. They sell happiness by the ounce, confidence by the click. And you keep buying thinking maybe this time it'll fill that hole in your soul. But the hole isn't supposed to close. That's how the system breathes. You buy, you work, you earn, you spend. A perfect circle of control disguised as freedom. They tell you this is adulthood. Bills, jobs, mortgages, taxes. Congratulations, you've graduated from childhood illusions to adult illusions. You think you're free because you get to choose your master. You pick your boss, your bank, your brand of suffering. They make it sound noble, hardworking citizen, taxpayer, contributor to society. What it really means is you're just a cog in a very profitable machine. They've turned survival into an industry. You pay for water, you pay for air conditioning, you pay to park your car on land that used to be free. Everything that was once part of being alive is now part of being billed. And when the weight of it all starts to crush you, when you feel like screaming from the inside, they give you entertainment. They know the human mind needs distraction, so they built an empire on it. Endless streams of shows, games, scrolling, sports, and gossip. They don't care what you watch, as long as you're not watching them. Every hour you spend staring at a screen is an hour you're not asking why the world is so damn crooked. Bred in circuses, same as the Romans, just in high definition now. You sit there half awake, thumb twitching on your phone, consuming content like it's oxygen. You don't live. You stream your own sedation. And social media, oh, that's the crown jewel of modern control. They don't even need to brainwash you anymore. You do it yourself. You perform your happiness, filter your face, count your likes, and call it validation. You've been trained to compare yourself to strangers and measure your worth in hearts and emojis. The dopamine hits keep you coming back, like a rat pressing a button for cheese. You're so busy curating your life, you forget to live it. They turned attention, the very currency of consciousness, into a product. You are the labor, the inventory, and the customer, all rolled into one. And the wild part, you think it's free. Meanwhile, the people who run things, the real ones, not the ones you vote for, are watching it all unfold from their penthouses smiling. They don't need to control you with force. They control you with fatigue. Keep you tired, busy, and scared, and you'll never rebel. You'll be too busy paying rent, chasing deadlines, and scrolling for relief. They don't even hide it. They brag about productivity, about growth, about GDP like it's some moral achievement. But what's growing really? Debt, anxiety, emptiness. The only thing shrinking is your attention span. And when you finally start to crack, when your mind begins to question this madness, they've got another industry waiting. Therapy, self-help, spirituality, supplements. They sell you healing like they sold you poison. Find your inner peace, they say, but make sure to subscribe to the app first. Even rebellion's been commercialized. They'll sell you a t-shirt that says question everything for $40. They package dissent, brand it, and feed it back to you. Nothing threatens them because everything can be monetized. Even your awakening has a barcode. And you wonder why everyone's anxious, depressed, exhausted, because deep down you know something's wrong. You can feel it. You sense the disconnect between who you are and what you've been turned into. But the system has a built-in answer for that too. Blame yourself. You're not working hard enough. You're not positive enough. You're not hustling enough. You need better time management, better habits, better mindset. They never say maybe the system is insane. No, it's always you. You're the problem. Buy another planner. Take another course. Manifest harder. They turn burnout into a personality trait. And you thank them for the advice. The adult maintenance program is subtle because it looks like life. You think you're just doing what everyone else does, working, consuming, staying informed, but really you're maintaining your own conditioning. Every paycheck, every purchase, every scroll keeps the gears spinning. You were taught that freedom means choice, but all your choices are inside a box. You can change the wallpaper, but the walls stay the same. You think you escaped childhood control, but you just graduated into a more sophisticated version. The puppet strings got thinner, that's all. Now you hold them yourself and call it progress. They say knowledge is power, but in this world, distraction is stronger. You know just enough to feel smart, but not enough to do anything. You're informed, but powerless. Connected, but alone. You wear your exhaustion like a badge of honor. I'm grinding. As if suffering is the proof of existence. And the system smiles because the more you grind, the smoother its machine runs. This is the adult phase of brainwashing, the long, quiet hypnosis where you confuse routine for purpose, convenience for happiness, and survival for living. They don't need chains or whips, just a steady paycheck, a glowing screen, and the illusion that you chose it all yourself. You ever notice how people these days don't even need anyone to tell them what to do anymore? They've become their own supervisors, their own censors, their own mind police. The system doesn't have to push you around. It taught you how to push yourself. That's the final stage of brainwashing when you take over the job. They programmed you so well that now you run the code automatically. You keep yourself in line without anyone having to say a word. You silence your own thoughts before they even make it to your tongue. You see something wrong, you feel it in your gut, but that little voice inside says, don't say anything, don't cause trouble, don't make people uncomfortable. That's not your conscience talking, that's the programming checking in. They told you all your life to be nice, fit in, don't be negative. You internalized it until it became instinct. You smile when you're angry, laugh when you're hurt, agree when you disagree. You call it being polite, but really it's self-censorship disguised as manners. You've learned to filter everything, your words, your emotions, even your dreams, through the invisible screen of what's acceptable. And the wild part, you think it's your choice. You think you're being mature, professional, well-adjusted, but all you're really doing is keeping the peace in a world that feeds on silence. People love to talk about freedom, but most of them are terrified of it. Real freedom means thinking without permission, and that's too much responsibility for most. They'd rather be comfortable than conscious. So they build their little cages and decorate them with motivational quotes. They mistake obedience for discipline, conformity for respect, and fear for common sense. You see it every day. People who say they want honesty but can't handle it. People who say they love truth but only if it agrees with their opinions. We've turned into a species allergic to discomfort. The moment something challenges our worldview, we run for cover. Call it toxic or offensive and shut it down. That's not sensitivity. That's conditioning. They trained you to think being agreeable is the same as being good. But being good, in their language, just means being predictable. Don't question authority, don't rock the boat, don't make waves, say the right things, use the right tone, smile on cue. The program runs deep. You can see it in people's faces, that twitch of fear when they're about to say something real. You can see their eyes flicker like a computer freezing up. Can I say this? Will I get in trouble? Will people still like me? And just like that, the moment passes. The truth dies in their throat, and the lie lives another day. It's not just speech they control, it's your emotions too. You were taught what to feel and when. They tell you anger is bad, sadness is weakness, fear is failure. So you bury them all under fake positivity. You tell yourself everything's fine, everything happens for a reason, keep smiling. They sold you good vibes only like it's enlightenment, but it's just another layer of denial. You're not healing, you're hiding. You repress everything real because reality doesn't fit the program. And that's the point. The more you suppress, the easier you are to control. They don't want emotional intelligence. They want emotional obedience. The media helps with that. You scroll through your feed and it's one long parade of perfectly curated lives. Everybody's happy, successful, enlightened, beautiful. You compare your behind the scenes to their highlight reel and conclude that something's wrong with you. So you post your own version, pretending, performing, keeping up the illusion. That's the self-inflicted brainwash. When you don't just consume lies, you manufacture them. You become both the victim and the volunteer. You feed the very machine that drains you because you can't stand the thought of looking like you don't belong. You sell a fake version of yourself to a fake audience for fake approval, and somehow it feels real. You've internalized the performance so deeply that you can't tell where you end and the act begins. And when someone comes along who refuses to play, who speaks too honestly or laughs at the wrong things, the crowd turns on them. You call them crazy, negative, or rude. That's the immune system of the program, rejecting anything that threatens the illusion. Society doesn't exile free thinkers anymore. It just labels them as problematic. That way, everyone feels safe ignoring them. You think censorship is something governments do, but now it's done by people who think they're doing good. We've outsourced control to the mob, and the mob doesn't even know it's on a leash. It's brilliant, really. The system doesn't have to monitor you. It just has to teach you to monitor each other. They plant the seeds of fear, guilt, and shame and let them grow inside you. You hesitate before you speak. You soften your words. You apologize for existing too loudly. You're always calculating, editing, managing perception. It's mental bureaucracy. Every thought has to be approved before it leaves the building. And the approval stamp isn't from the government or the church. It's from your own conditioned conscience. Even your desires aren't really yours. You think you want success, love, security, but those wants were installed too. They told you what happiness looks like, and you never questioned the picture. You chase it like a mirage, career, family, possessions, thinking the next milestone will finally feel real. But every time you reach it, it slips away because it was never your dream. It was the system's dream running through your head like a commercial. And when you finally stop to ask why you feel empty, they have a diagnosis ready: depression, burnout, anxiety. But the cure is always more of the same: more goals, more productivity, more distractions. They never tell you the truth. You're suffering from obedience. And the scariest part is how. Deep it goes. You don't just obey rules. You obey invisible expectations. You shape your personality around what's rewarded and hide the rest in shadows. You've built an internal prison with bars made of politeness and fear. You smile through pain, nod through lies, and call it maturity. But real maturity is rebellion, the courage to be authentic in a world that punishes it. You won't find that in a self-help book or a TED Talk. You find it in the moment you stop editing yourself. You see, the perfect slave doesn't need chains or guards. The perfect slave believes he's free. That's the masterpiece of modern brainwashing. It's invisible, self-sustaining, efficient. You were trained to behave, then trained to believe that behaving is virtue. You were trained to comply, then told compliance is peace. And so you go along, convinced you're making choices when really you're following invisible scripts written by people who profit from your obedience. Sometimes in the quiet moments before sleep, when the noise fades and the mask slips, you feel it. That flicker of doubt, that whisper that says something isn't right. That's your mind trying to reboot, trying to remember what it's like to think without supervision. But then you wake up, check your phone, scroll through the headlines, and the feeling disappears. The program resumes. You tell yourself it's normal, everyone's like this, nothing's wrong, and maybe that's true, maybe everyone is like this, but normal doesn't mean free. The final stage of brainwashing isn't when they make you believe the lie, it's when you defend it, when you fight for it, when you'd rather die than admit you were deceived. That's the level we've reached now. People wear their conditioning, like identity. Challenge it, and they'll destroy you in its name. You don't need dictators when the people do the job for them. The New World Order isn't a conspiracy, it's conformity. And it doesn't come with soldiers or slogans. It comes with smiles, hashtags, self-control. You've become the warden of your own mind, the guard of your own cage, the censor of your own voice, and the only way out is to realize that the prison door has always been unlocked. You were just too afraid to open it. You ever notice how people love to brag about being free? They walk around waving their flags, chanting about liberty, posting quotes about freedom, all while living under 1,000 invisible rules they never chose. That's the funniest part about modern life. Everyone thinks they're free, but their freedom came pre-approved, pre-packaged, and perfectly contained. You get to choose what flavor of control you want, and they call that democracy. You can pick your job, your phone, your car, your news channel, but the structure that shapes your choices stays the same. You think you're navigating the world, but really you're walking through a maze designed by someone who already knows where you'll end up. Freedom today isn't about having choices. It's about feeling like you do. That's the trick. As long as you feel free, you won't look too closely. You can shout about liberty all day long. Just make sure you do it from inside the system. Go ahead. Start a protest. Post your opinions. Argue online. None of it matters as long as you stay on the platform they own. That's the beauty of it. They control the arena, the microphone, and the spotlight, and you still think it's your show. They let you play revolutionary as long as it doesn't threaten the business model. It's not oppression if it's entertaining. The illusion of freedom is stronger than any dictatorship because it doesn't need violence to survive. They don't have to point guns at you. They point ads at you. They don't burn books. They bury truth under noise. They don't silence dissent. They flood it with distractions. You can say whatever you want, but nobody's listening because everyone's too busy scrolling, shopping, or shouting. You've got all the freedom in the world, too. Express yourself. Just don't expect it to change anything. The system doesn't fear speech anymore. It drowns it. It overwhelms you with so much nonsense that meaning becomes impossible. The result isn't control through fear. It's control through exhaustion. You think you're informed, but information now is a circus. Every headline screams, every feed refreshes, every opinion fights for oxygen. You can't tell truth from performance anymore. Politics is show business, media is marketing, and outrage is the new currency. Everyone's angry about something, but nobody's doing anything because outrage burns fast and leaves you numb. That's the design. Keep you emotional but powerless. You can rage all you want, they'll just sell ads on it. They turned rebellion into content. The revolution's been monetized, and while you're busy yelling at strangers online, the real decisions are being made in quiet rooms by people whose names you'll never know. They own the air, the water, the data, the debt, and the narrative. They make the laws, they write the loopholes, and they sell you both sides of the argument. They fund the politicians, they run the media companies, they even own the social platforms where you pretend to fight them. You think you've got freedom of speech? Sure, but only if it fits inside their terms of service. You can say whatever you want until it hits their wallet. Then suddenly you're violating community guidelines. That's not censorship, that's corporate hygiene. You've got the illusion of choice everywhere. 2 political parties, same donors. Dozens of news outlets, same owners. Hundreds of products, all made by the same 5 corporations. You feel empowered because you pick between Pepsi and Coke, but either way, you're drinking sugar water from the same parent company. It's like being proud of choosing which color your prison uniform will be. You tell yourself it's freedom because it's comfortable. You've been trained to equate comfort with liberty and fear with control. But that's backwards. Real freedom is uncomfortable. It demands awareness, sacrifice, and risk. Comfort is the real cage, soft enough that you stop trying to escape. Even your time isn't yours. You think it is because you plan your days, set your alarms, and make your schedules. But every minute is monetized. Your attention, your clicks, your emotions, they're all commodities. You're not living, you're generating data. Every decision you make feeds the machine. They don't need to read your mind. They built it for you. Algorithms shape your desires before you even know them. You think you're choosing what to watch, what to buy, what to believe. But the choices were planted, designed to feel spontaneous. That's the ultimate illusion of freedom, when your manipulation feels like independence. And when you start to sense something's off, when that little voice whispers that maybe this isn't freedom at all, they've got 1,000 ways to shut it up. Entertainment, drugs, comfort food, self-help gurus, spiritual influencers, pick your sedative. The system has a flavor for every personality. Want to rebel? They'll sell you rebellion merch. Want to escape? Here's a mindfulness app with ads. Want truth? Here's a documentary funded by the same corporations that hide it. They've made sure there's no way out that doesn't lead you right back in. You can resist, but only within the options they provide. Even the idea of freedom has been trademarked, and people defend it. That's the wildest part. They'll argue to the death for the very system that enslaves them, because they've been taught to equate criticism with betrayal. If you question the government, you're unpatriotic. If you question religion, you're immoral. If you question capitalism, you're lazy. The labels keep you in line. Nobody wants to be the outcast, so they pick a side and wear it like armor. But every side is owned. You're not fighting for justice, you're fighting for a brand. They've turned identity into merchandise, and people wear it proudly. You can be conservative, liberal, spiritual, woke, nihilist. Doesn't matter. Every box comes with a barcode. Meanwhile, the real freedom, the freedom of mind, is nowhere to be found. Because that kind of freedom can't be marketed. It can't be liked, shared, or monetized. It's dangerous. It makes you unpredictable, unmanageable, inconvenient. And nobody profits from that. So instead, they give you a steady drip of artificial freedom. Vote every few years, post your opinion, buy your individuality in subscription form. That way, you'll never notice the strings. They've made you a puppet who believes he's the puppeteer. And the best part? You'll defend that illusion like it's sacred truth. Freedom has become performance art. Everyone's performing autonomy, online, at work, in relationships. But underneath it all, they're terrified of stepping outside the script. You can tell by how defensive they get when you ask simple questions. Why do you believe that? Why do you work so much? Why do you buy that? They'll stumble, get angry, maybe call you crazy, because deep down, they don't know. Nobody told them how to think, just what to think. And the idea of real choice is too heavy. They'd rather pretend. That's how the illusion survives, through complicity. You don't need guards when the prisoners police themselves. You don't need chains when the people are proud of their obedience. They'll tell you freedom is about voting, buying, belonging, believing. But real freedom doesn't fit on a bumper sticker. Real freedom is messy, lonely, and terrifying. It's not about doing whatever you want. It's about seeing the system for what it is and refusing to be hypnotized by it. But that kind of freedom can't be managed. And the world doesn't reward what it can't manage. So the illusion continues, stronger than ever, dressed up in technology, comfort, and self-expression. You live in a cage so perfectly designed you stop noticing the bars. You call it progress. You call it civilization. You call it freedom.